WP, having busted the evil cult's headquarters and capturing all their high-ranking members, at long last you can punish them after you sift through the records of their vile activities like an orphanage for war victims, a catastrophe relief fund, dragon habitat preservation. A week after Louis had helped take down the cult, his world changed. He'd been delivering his report to his superior, a detailed analysis of how Louis and his team had infiltrated and arrested the 60-member criminal organization. But his boss's office had been empty. Her computer was on, however, and sat unlocked with a document loaded up on the screen. Careless of her. He really should have locked it on her behalf. But instead he began to read. "Well said, Eleonora," as she stepped into her office and found Louis sitting in her seat. "Tell me this isn't true," Louis said. "Tell me we didn't take down the good guys. We didn't take down the good guys," she said with a faux smile. "I can tell you that. What they were doing was illegal. We took down criminals. As we always do, they were helping refugees. Preserving land for dragons." He shook his head. The entire thing was unbelievable. Or he just didn't want to believe it. That he'd been responsible for so much hurt. The dragon was taking up a lot of prime real estate. You understand? The criminals who owned all that sprawling countryside had to give it up. Now it's become land we can build on. You'll surely agree that's good news? And besides, the dragon was a thief. You have no idea the amount of priceless treasures it had been hoarding. Now they belong, rightfully, to us. Rightfully? What made them rightfully belong to people any more than to a dragon? So what will we do them now? Louis asked. With all these great treasures, sell those of most historical importance to museums. The rest we sell to private buyers, and then that money goes back to the government, as it should. Have you any issues with that? He did. He was certain he did. But he wasn't sure exactly what his issues with it were. Where's the dragon now? Safely locked up. Far below us. Below us. Louis' eyes widened. Relax. It can't breathe fire in the low oxygen atmosphere down there. And it certainly cannot break free of its shackles in its state. So we're perfectly safe up here. Besides, it's only temporary. Once we find the right buyer, we'll descale it and sell what we can. Descale it? That sounds like it'll hurt you pretty badly, she laughed. Oh Louis. Don't be naive. It'll kill it. But it'll also help lift this country out of its national debts. Not a bad sacrifice, I'd say. Louis' stomach churned. His vision dancing back and forth, along with his ideas of morality. And the orphans? We've displaced hundreds of people with nowhere left to go. They have places to go. A wide range of places. Finally. A little hope. Yeah, they can choose prison. Or they can go back where they came from. We'll find somewhere for each and every one of them. Don't you worry. Louis had been involved in many dangerous situations during his time in the job. But he'd never been involved in a jailbreak. He crawled through the vents, gradually lowering himself deeper into the underbelly of the building. Then deeper into the earth itself. He dragged something very heavy behind him, making the entire endeavor damn near impossible. A cylindrical blue oxygen tank. If he could get near enough to the dragon's mouth, it would only need one burst of this oxygen to give it back its fire. Or enough, with any luck, to melt its chains. Then after that, it would be on its own. He supposed. Would have to have luck on its side to escape the rest of the building. He'd be left on his own then. 2. A traitor. A needle in his arm. An unmarked grave. But over the last few days he'd decided he'd prefer to die a traitor than live loyal to this. He hadn't expected the dragon to be able to talk. To thank him through an ancient and tired voice for freeing her. He certainly hadn't expected to ride out on its back. As great steel doors gave way to the dragon's whipping tail. As fire returned to her belly and to her eyes. Once out, they circled over the building. The dragon raining flames down on it. Until it turned soot black and was left a breath away from crumbling. Then, together, they flew to a distant place in a distant land where Louis said they might undo some of the bad Louis had caused if the dragon agreed to help him. The dragon carved the new orphanage into the mountains. Great halls with vaulted ceilings. 1,000 rooms. Louis redirected a stream of fresh water. Helped the dragon forge flat step terraces trailing down the mountains for food to be grown on. The dragon then allowed Louis to pluck a scale from its back and to sell it for all the money they'd need to get started. Orphans of both wars and natural disasters were broken out of their waiting room prisons by Louis and the dragon. 2 wooden platforms sat on either side of the dragon's back. And like a great green airship they transported prisoners group by group to their new home in the mountains. Louis showed each person, no longer orphans, to their very own room. Gave them food and water. Would soon teach them how to fetch and grow their own hair. The dragon slept on the very tip of the mountain. Curled around the rock like a kitten around its mother's legs. Its snoozing breath warming the pipes that ran through the orphanage. It is dark in the valley. Though it should have been a full moon night. And so far from civilization the stars had once been very bright. Now the land is lit only by the steady glow of Erin's tattoos. The only evidence of the magic she has wrought in this place. And the flicker of fire whenever Calanthrag opens his mouth to speak. They are coming. The dragon says. I know. Erin whispers. It is not a thing either of them want to confront. The land slopes up and away from them. The sparse desert scrub withered away by the radiant heat of Calanthrag's body. He is titanic. Erin has to crane her head back to look into his eyes. And when walks. As he has been of late now that it is becoming dangerous to fly again. The ground shakes. In the night his scales are very dark. The shade of their blue downshifting towards navy. Natural camouflage that is a learned behavior of his magic. Something that dragons should never have had to do. But Erin has flown with him above waters of the Gulf. She has seen him in daylight. When those dark scales become aquamarine. And it is like racing above the world on a surging wave. A tide of ancient muscle. Scale. And strength. Those are the things she clings to now that they are coming. What will you do? The dragon asks. I won't have you sacrificing yourself for me. I'll do what I must. Erin shrugs. And tries to look up at the space where the moon would be if she hadn't blotted out the light above their secret valley. Erin. Calanthrag growls. A sound so deep inside his chest Erin thinks it might fill the world if given half a chance. Eldest, when a dragon-sized smoke leaks out their nostrils. It blows across her. Like she's trapped in the line of fire of the world's biggest cigarette. Erin coughs. Cursing at him as she conjures up the wind and blows the smoke away. Look. I knew what I was getting into when I pledged myself to that stupid cult. She says. Did you ever truly believe? The force of her laughter reverberates through the valley. Shaking loose the dust on the hills to send it tumbling down towards them. This is her place even more than it is his. It resonates with her. Twists itself to her moods. You know me better than anyone. You think I'd ever believe in the no god? Does ascetic apocalism seem like my thing? No. Calanthrag says. No, I suppose it does not. Though the first time you approached you did look very cute in those robes, she groans. Don't remind me. I hate those things. The sleeves are always too long. And the hem drags through the dust whenever you try to go anywhere. They're the worst. Not half as cozy as they look like they should be. A time passes between them in silent companionship. Calanthrag curls cat-like into the desert ground. His body a half moon to be ringed by the long, thick expanse of his tail. He gestures towards her with a flick of his forked tongue before closing the circle. Holding the tip of his tail nearly vertical off the ground as Erin slips between his legs to lean against his side. She can feel the great heat of him through her sweater. The thrumming, intoxicating life energy common to all dragons. His tail closes the ring, snugging around them. And she pulls her legs up to her chest. Chin upon her knees. Erin can hardly see 10 feet into the pitch blackness beyond their bodies. Anything could have been out there. And as a rule she has learned to assume that everything is. Do you think the others will be okay? Calanthrag asks later. When the blotted out moon should have sunk low on the horizon. Yes. Erin says. And she is sure of it. You could still go with them. The Argentina preserve is far off. But it's a life and a good one. My apprentices there aren't really cult believers either. And the word hasn't gotten out about it yet. Silence. Calanthrag will not go. To say it again would be to reopen the old wound. He is beyond ancient. Beyond her comprehending. When the pyramids rose, Calanthrag had watched and laughed at the hubris of men. He could remember first seeing fire from a creature that was not himself. He could remember days upon Savannah when mankind first began raising its voice to the stars. To praying in tones that were more song than spiritualism. No hints yet of organization to anything about them. Calanthrag is the most ancient thing in the world. And he has come to love this place. He will not leave. He will not give up another home. And Erin will not give up on him. So they are coming. And the pair of them know that it is so. And even still neither witch nor dragon will leave this valley. I won't have you sacrificing yourself for me. Calanthrag repeats. Erin. You've done enough. You've given my children a chance. Go to Argentina. Have a bevy of your own. Raise them alongside some goats. You know me better than that, he does. And he does not need to say it. How is it that I have lived the lifetime of a world? And I still do not know how to say goodbye, and that is the heart of it. That is the heart of why Erin is here. In this desert. With this dragon. Casting off all the paths her life take to follow this path to its end. Calanthrag is not a creature that can say goodbye. Especially not to his pride. There is something about that calls to her. Even more. There is something about the incredible. Solid reality of him. His flesh. His scales. His fire beneath her hands and against her back and wrapped around her that makes her feel like the world is young again and there is still much to be discovered. Even though it is old and he is older. And there is less and less left every day that is not claimed in the ever forward march of progress. I don't know how to say goodbye either. Erin says. She closes her eyes. Commits the night and into whatever memory she still has left. And jumps up. So let's not say it. I will not leave. Goddamn it, Calanthrag. You don't have to. The words tear out of her louder even than his. Rocks shaking at the sound of her amplified voice. Erin's tattoos are ablaze. Her legs a multicolored glowing swath. Their paleness almost washed away by the magic. It has grown hot inside the circle of Calanthrag's body and she pulls off her sweater. Discarding it into the night and revealing more and more tattoos beneath. They cling to shoulder. Reach up to her collarbone. Most of all is the glow from the center of her. The prismatic heart etched into her sternum that beats in time with her own. Natural heart. Fly with me. One last time. She says. We don't have to go to Argentina. We can circle the valley or go out onto the Gulf or fly to the goddamn moon. I don't care. But dragons do not go meekly into the night. And I sure as hell don't. What do you know of how dragons die, he asks. Too much. What do you know which is too much? Calanthrag echoes. Then. After consideration. Erin. Give me back the stars. She takes a long breath. Holding the magic within her. Then one by one her tattoos wink out until the beating prismatic heart remains. And the light rushes in. It is twilight. The last vestiges of the full moon sinking beneath the horizon. The stars Calanthrag had wanted all but faded from the sky. But the sun is almost rising. And to a dragon the fires of dawn are sacred. Erin hopes that will be enough. They can find us now. She says. Let them come. Calanthrag stands. Unfurling his wings around them. Let us fly one more time, little witch. Perhaps somewhere up there among the stars we will learn how to say goodbye. He bends his long neck low like a camel might. And Erin clambers up his spines to the hollow between them where his neck meets his body. She leans into a spine. Pressing its curve to her shoulder and wrapping her arms around it. It is smooth to the touch. Warm with the radiant heat of him. His scales do not chafe at her legs as they once did. They have both grown used to each other. And the beat of her tattooed heart carries other magics latent along with it. When he stands to his full height it is like being melded to a mountain. And when he rears back, unfurling his wings, every bit of the cult becomes worth it. Calanthrag grumbles a word in the dragon tongue. A thing without syllables but pregnant with meaning. It is goodbye. A concept borrowed and then grafted onto a language that should never have wrestled with the concept. Dragons should have been too ancient for goodbye. Goodbye. Erin says. as their little valley disappears beneath them. Then Calanthrag wheels about and points towards the rising sun. He greets the day with a blistering gout of flame, and there is a hello implicit in it. She reaches out to him. In body. In mind. In every way a witch and a dragon can. And they go off. Bravely into the sunrise. If you enjoyed that, I've got tons more over at Our Turning to Words. Come check it out. I'd love to have you.